Apple Knocker Radio.
You don't hear people talk about loyalty anymore. And could you just talk a little bit about loyalty right now?
Of course. Again, we as a culture have this ersatz seriousness where we think that talking about things like loyalty is somehow corny or obfuscating or simplistic. And I break with that altogether. I think there are certain primal values that we should really try to learn to live with again. I also speak about civility. I don't think we as a human civilization are going to make it if we as individuals don't get in front of the sarcasm, the insults, the rhetorical questions that have become the lingua franca online. And so take loyalty, for example. As soon as you utter the term loyalty, a whole fraction of our population will say, oh, you're talking about corruption? What if I, work for an evil person? Should I be loyal to him? And I always feel like that's evasive because the truth is most of us on a day-to-day scale do not encounter questions of ultimate evil. Most of us are dealing with much smaller, more intimate questions, and that's the judgment ground on which we have to stand. So my feeling is before we start to extrapolate and get into these faraway questions that frankly most of us very, very rarely deal with, I'm presuming that most of the listeners, for example, right now are in positions of reasonable material comfort, reasonable physical safety. They're not in a position where they're rendering judgment at Nuremberg. They're simply getting through their day and making decisions, sometimes very automatically, sometimes without any forethought as to whether they're going to do something to keep their word, whether they're going to show up on time for something, whether they're going to take care of a problem that they had promised somebody yesterday that they were going to take care of, whatever it may be. And I think loyalty figures into that insofar as a person's capacity to keep his or her word is the primary determinant of who they are. And we can run away from that, and we successfully run away from that all the time in terms of preserving our own self-image. But, for example, if a friend or a colleague or whomever encounters some setback in life, do we run away from them, or do we stand there with them in some way that we're capable of? And very frequently this occurs online. When people are assailed or attacked online, do we rubberneck and enjoy the show of seeing somebody humiliated, or do we say, I'm not going to participate in that, whether that means silence, whether that means support? That might mean any number of things, whether that means in withholding judgment until we've investigated the situation ourselves and can arrive at some sort of an independent judgment, whatever it may be. I think that we lose sight of traits like loyalty to our own great detriment, because people are often wondering, how can I stand taller? How can I exercise more personal power? How can I find a sense of agency in the world? Well, maybe one of the ways we can find that sense of agency is to experience the challenge, the difficulty, the consequences of keeping our word, behaving in a solidaristic or loyal manner, abstaining from trash talk, abstaining from participation in entertainment that humiliates people, for example. These are steps that the individual can take this hour. And I challenge a listener, see if in doing so you don't stand taller. See if in doing so you don't feel more self-possessed. You don't feel more relaxed in the profoundest sense. You don't feel more comfortable in your own skin. I think trying to behave with honor is the most obvious and yet the most overlooked key that we possess in pursuit of our own sense of self-establishment, self-respect, self-possession.